There is something that has followed you, not as a shadow, not as a burden, but as a presence, quiet, persistent, walking just slightly behind the version of you that goes through the days, manages the obligations, shows up in all the ways the world requires. A presence that whispers in the spaces between everything else, in the moment just before sleep pulls you under, in the stillness of an early morning, before the day constructs itself around you, in the unexpected pause that sometimes opens in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, when the noise briefly stops and something underneath surfaces and says simply, unmistakably, there is something you are here to do. Not in the anxious, grasping way that the world talks about purpose, not as a destination to be reached or a title to be earned or an achievement to be unlocked through sufficient effort and discipline. Something quieter than all of that. Something that has been with you since before you can remember. You have felt it in the things that move you without explanation, in the causes that activate something in your chest before your mind has time to decide how you feel about them, in the gifts that come so naturally to you that you have spent years dismissing them as ordinary, not realizing that what feels effortless to you feels impossible to others precisely because it is yours, specifically, particularly, irreplaceably yours. The soul purpose is not something you discover one day like a coin found on a pavement. It is something you uncover layer by layer, season by season, through the accumulated experience of a life that has been moving toward this understanding from its very first breath. And something brought you here today. Not coincidence, not algorithm, something that operates at a level far more precise than either of those. If something in your chest is already recognizing this, if that quiet presence that has followed you is stirring as you receive these words, drop purpose in the comments, not as performance, as acknowledgement, a small sacred marker between you and the part of yourself that has been waiting for permission to be taken seriously. And if this transmission is meeting you in a place that needed meeting today, let that resonance be known. Press like, not for the numbers, because what you choose to amplify is what you call more of into your life. Long before you had this body, before this name, this face, this particular constellation of gifts and wounds and experiences that makes you irreducibly you, there was a knowing, not a plan in the rigid, anxious sense, but a knowing, a deep, luminous, unshakable awareness of what you came here to offer, what frequency you agreed to carry, what particular quality of light the world would need from you in this specific chapter of its own awakening. The deepest accounts of consciousness, gathered across decades of guiding ordinary people into the vast knowing that lives beneath the surface of the everyday mind, returned again and again with this discovery. Every soul arrives with purpose already written into its frequency, not as a sentence, not as a job description, as a calling, encoded in the specific texture of your sensitivity, in the precise nature of your gifts, in the particular wounds that cracked you open in exactly the right places, in the questions that have followed you through every season of your life, refusing to be fully answered by anything the surface world offered. All of it, every piece of it, in service of something real, something that only you can fulfill, in the exact way that only you can fulfill it. This is not inspiration. This is not the kind of motivational language the world offers as a substitute for genuine truth. This is what the soul knows when it is allowed to speak without the interference of doubt and conditioning and the accumulated smallness that a world still learning its own nature sometimes presses onto the people moving through it. Your purpose is not waiting for you to be ready. It has been expressing itself through you, quietly, persistently, in ways you have perhaps been too close to recognize for your entire life. What changes now is not the purpose. What changes is your willingness to see it before this life began, before the first breath, before the first cry, before the hands that would shape you held you for the very first time. There was a conversation, not in words, not in the language that requires a mouth and an ear and the particular friction of air moving through a throat, in light, in knowing, in the language that exists between souls when there is no body to translate through and no fear to distort the signal. And in that conversation, in that luminous, boundless space that exists between one life and the next, you made choices, deliberate, loving, courageous beyond anything the human mind can fully hold. You chose the specific quality of sensitivity you would carry, the precise nature of the gifts that would feel so natural to you that you would spend years not recognizing them as extraordinary, the particular wounds that would press into you exactly the kind of depth and understanding that your purpose would require. You chose all of it, not from a place of naivety, not without full awareness of what it would cost. From a place of such complete and luminous love for what you came to serve, that the cost felt not like sacrifice, but like sacred investment. The souls who have been guided into the deepest levels of their own consciousness, past the personality, past the conditioned self, into the vast knowing that underlies all of it, have spoken of this space with remarkable consistency across thousands of individual accounts that should not agree with each other as perfectly as they do. They speak of a place of complete clarity, where the soul in full awareness reviews what it has learned, what it still carries, what it came to offer, and chooses with infinite wisdom and infinite love the precise circumstances that will serve the next chapter of its unfolding. They speak of guides, of counsels, of light, of agreements made with other souls, souls who would later become the great loves, the deep wounds, the most transformative teachers of the incarnated life. And they speak again and again of purpose, not as a vague spiritual concept, as something specific, felt, known with a certainty that the conscious mind has spent the entire human life trying to rediscover from the outside. This is why the feeling never fully left you. Even in your most disconnected seasons, even when you buried the questions under busyness and noise and the particular numbness that a world still asleep offers so freely to those who are ready to wake. Something remained, a thread, thin sometimes, nearly invisible in the darkest chapters, but never broken, the thread of your purpose, running through every season of your life like a golden current beneath the surface of everything, always moving, always present, always leading somewhere. And here is what the thread has always been leading toward. Not a destination outside yourself, but a depth within yourself. The purpose was never a place to arrive at. It was always a way of being, a frequency to embody, a quality of presence to bring into every room, every relationship, every ordinary moment of an extraordinary life. Tonight, before sleep finds you, try this. Lie still. Let the day fall away from you completely. Let your body remember what it feels like to be held rather than to hold everything together. And then, gently, without the urgency of someone searching for an answer, ask inward, what did I agree to bring here? not with your mind. Lower the question deeper than that, into the chest, into the place beneath the heartbeat where the soul speaks in feeling rather than thought. Then breathe and simply listen, not for a voice, not for a vision, but for whatever arises in the quality of the stillness that follows, a warmth, a subtle recognition, an image that feels more like memory than imagination. Whatever comes, receive it without analysis, without immediately translating it into something the logical mind can manage and file away. Simply receive it. Like a letter from the version of you that has always known exactly why you are here. Because here is what is true at the deepest level. Your purpose did not get lost when the forgetting descended. It got encoded into the very fabric of who you are, into the specific texture of your gifts and your wounds, and the precise way your heart opens when something real is spoken, into the questions that have followed you through every season, refusing to be answered by anything that was not large enough to contain them. Every part of you is a clue, every sensitivity, every inexplicable passion, every wound that cracked you open in exactly the right place, all of it pointing, has always been pointing, toward the same luminous center, the purpose you agreed to before you arrived, the one that has been living inside you all along, waiting not to be found, but to be recognized. There is a place inside you that the noise has never reached, not the noise of the world, though that is loud enough, but the deeper noise, the internal kind, the constant low hum of self-monitoring and self-doubt, and the endless negotiation between who you are and who you have been told you should be. Beneath all of that, there is a silence, not empty silence, not the silence of absence or absence of meaning, a full silence, the kind that hums with knowing, the kind that has been present beneath every moment of your life, beneath the joy and the grief and the searching and the ordinary Tuesdays, steady and luminous and completely undisturbed by anything that has ever happened on the surface. This is where your purpose lives, not in the thinking mind, not in the constructed self that learned to perform and produce and present itself in ways the world could receive. In the silence beneath all of that. And the meditation is simply the art of going there. Long before meditation had a name, before any tradition built walls around it and called it practice or discipline or technique, souls who understood the nature of consciousness knew something that the deepest accounts of regression and hypnotic exploration have confirmed across thousands of individual sessions. The answers are not outside. They have never been outside. Every genuine seeker who has ever gone far enough inward has arrived at the same discovery, not a teaching handed down from somewhere else, but a direct, first-hand, undeniable recognition. The knowing was here all along, the sole purpose. The reason for this particular life in this particular body, at this particular extraordinary moment in the arc of human consciousness, all of it present, accessible, waiting with the patience of something that has never once doubted it would be found because it has never doubted you. So right now, wherever you are receiving this, allow something to shift, not dramatically, not with effort or ceremony or the self-conscious performance of someone trying to have a spiritual experience. Simply allow your body to release whatever it has been holding since you last gave it permission to rest. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let the breath come slightly slower, slightly deeper, touching places in the chest that the shallow breathing of a busy life rarely reaches. And as you breathe, Imagine descending, not falling, descending the way a diver moves through water, deliberate and unhurried, the surface growing more distant above them, and the deep growing clearer below. Each breath carries you deeper, past the surface thoughts, the to-do lists, the unfinished conversations, the plans and worries that live in the uppermost layer of the mind. Deeper, past the emotions of the day, the textures of feeling that have accumulated since morning, the residue of interactions and obligations, and the particular weight this season of your life has been carrying. Deeper still, until you arrive at something that feels different from everything above it, quieter, stiller, more certain, a quality of inner space that feels, if you allow yourself to notice it without immediately questioning it, like coming home. In this space, you are not the roles you have played. You are not the wounds you have carried. You are not the version of yourself that learned to be small in the rooms where smallness felt safer than the full expression of what you are. In this space, you are simply awareness, pure, boundless, luminous awareness. And from this awareness, gently, without pressure, like a flower opening in the direction it has always known, ask, not with urgency, not with the anxiety of someone who needs the answer immediately, with the open, receptive curiosity of someone who knows the answer is already present and simply needs the right quality of attention to become visible. What am I here to give? What does the world need that only I can offer in the way that only I can offer it? What have I always known beneath the doubt, beneath the conditioning, beneath every voice that told me it was too much or not enough or simply impossible? What have I always known I came here to do? Let the question sink deeper than the mind, into the chest, into the body, into the vast interior landscape that most people spend entire lifetimes moving through without ever fully exploring. And then be still. Not the stillness of waiting anxiously for an answer, the stillness of someone who has asked a question into a space they trust completely, and trusts that what will rise in its own perfect timing, in its own perfect form, perhaps as a feeling of warmth gathering in a specific place in your body, perhaps as an image, vivid or impressionistic, clear or symbolic, perhaps as a word or a quality or a simple, undeniable sense of recognition, so quiet and so certain it requires no confirmation from anywhere outside yourself. Yes, this is what I came for. When it comes, and it will come, do not analyze it immediately. Do not measure it against what you think a soul purpose should look like. Do not compare it to anyone else's path or dismiss it because it feels too simple or too large or too far from where your life currently stands. Simply receive it with the same reverence you would bring to something sacred, because that is exactly what it is. A message from the deepest level of your own being, delivered not from somewhere outside, but from the part of you that has always known, the part that agreed to this life, that packed its gifts carefully before the descent, that has been waiting with infinite patience and infinite love for precisely this moment of turning inward, this moment, this breath, this recognition. There is something nobody tells you about soul purpose. It has already been showing itself to you, not in the dramatic, unmistakable way the searching mind imagines revelation arrives, not as a single blinding moment of clarity that reorganizes everything overnight into perfect luminous order, but in the quiet, persistent, almost ordinary ways that the soul communicates with the human self that has temporarily forgotten what it knows. in the things that make you lose track of time, in the topics that activate something in your chest before your mind has decided how you feel about them, in the conversations that leave you feeling more alive rather than more depleted, in the moments when something moves through you, a quality of understanding, a depth of presence, a particular way of seeing, and the person across from you is visibly changed by it. You dismissed those moments, called them coincidence, called them personality, called them anything except what they actually were, your purpose, moving through you uninvited, expressing itself through the cracks in your constructed self, whether you gave it permission or not. Long before this life, in the space of full soul awareness, where the deepest accounts of consciousness confirm the soul reviews and chooses and prepares, every gift was packed deliberately. Nothing about what comes naturally to you is accidental. The sensitivity that sometimes feels like too much, packed deliberately, because the work requires someone who feels deeply enough to understand what others cannot yet articulate for themselves. The way certain suffering has moved through you and left behind not bitterness, but a quality of compassion so specific and so earned that it cannot be performed or taught, only lived into, packed deliberately, because the souls you came to serve will need someone who has been somewhere like where they are. The inexplicable draw towards certain ideas, certain questions, certain territories of knowing that the practical world offered no obvious reason to explore, packed deliberately. Because the path of your purpose runs directly through the landscape that has always called to you most deeply. Every pull, every passion, every persistent question, breadcrumbs, left by the wiser version of you that made the agreements before the forgetting descended, leading you one step at a time back to what you came here to do. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most useful, not most successful, not most recognized or most rewarded or most validated by the external measures the world offers. Most useful in the deepest sense, the sense of having offered something real to someone who needed it, of having been precisely the right presence in precisely the right moment, of having given something that came so naturally from you that you almost did not notice you were giving it. Those moments were not random acts of kindness. They were previews, brief luminous glimpses of what it looks like when your purpose moves through you without obstruction, when the constructed self steps aside long enough for the soul self to do what it came here to do. And the feeling in those moments, that aliveness, that rightness, that sense of being exactly and completely where and what you are supposed to be, that feeling is your compass, the most reliable navigational instrument available to a soul in a human life. More reliable than logic, more reliable than planning, more reliable than any external voice offering direction from outside the territory of your own knowing. When something generates that feeling, move toward it, not recklessly, not abandoning everything the practical life requires, but consistently, deliberately, with the quiet confidence of someone who has begun to trust what their own soul is communicating. Tonight, before sleep, take something to write with, something physical, pen and paper if possible, the act of writing by hand, carrying a quality of presence that other forms cannot quite replicate, and write without editing, without judgment, without the self-conscious performance of someone trying to produce the right answer. These three things. What have I always loved that I have never fully given myself permission to take seriously? When have I felt most alive, most useful, most completely myself? What would I offer the world if I knew with certainty it was exactly what was needed? Do not think, write. Let whatever comes come without the interference of the analytical mind that wants to evaluate and qualify and make sure every answer is reasonable before allowing it to exist on the page. The soul does not speak in reasonable, it speaks in real. And what is real will rise through the pen, through the hand, through the body that is always closer to the soul's knowing than the mind allows itself to believe. Read what you have written, not critically. With the gentle, open attention of someone receiving a letter from a version of themselves they have been waiting a long time to hear from, because that is exactly what it is. The signs have always been there, in the recurring dreams that carried a particular quality of feeling, even after the images faded, in the strangers who found you at precisely the right moment and said precisely the thing you needed without knowing why they said it, in the losses that redirected you, painfully, necessarily, away from paths that were never truly yours and toward the territory where your purpose actually lives. Nothing was wasted. Not a single experience, not a single season of confusion or grief or searching in the wrong direction. Every moment of your life has been pointing, has always been pointing, toward the same luminous center, the place where what you are meets what the world needs, where your specific, irreplaceable, carefully chosen gifts meet the specific, real, waiting hunger of the souls you came to serve. That meeting point is your purpose, and it is closer than you have ever allowed yourself to believe. It is not waiting at some future destination. It is here, in the quality of your attention right now, in the recognition moving through you as these words land, in the quiet, steady, unshakable sense that something in you already knows, has always known, exactly what you came here to do. There is a moment that comes, not announced, not dramatic, not arriving with the ceremony the searching mind imagined it would deserve after everything it took to get here. It comes in the quiet, in the stillness after the meditation, in the space between one breath and the next, in the ordinary moment that suddenly carries an extraordinary weight of recognition, the moment when the purpose stops feeling like something you are trying to find and starts feeling like something you have always been, not a destination finally reached after sufficient effort and sufficient suffering and sufficient years of getting it wrong before getting it right, a remembering, the soul exhaling into what it always knew, the searching mind finally quieting long enough to hear what the deeper knowing has been saying all along. You were born ready for this. Long before this life, in the full luminous awareness of the soul that chose this incarnation with eyes wide open, there was no doubt, no question of whether you were capable, no anxiety about whether the gifts were sufficient, or the timing was right, or the circumstances were favorable enough to begin. From that level of knowing, from the vast, clear, unobstructed perspective of a soul that could see the full arc of what it was choosing, the answer was simply, yes. Yes to this body, yes to this family, yes to this particular geography of challenge and gift, yes to the forgetting that would make the remembering meaningful, yes to every season of searching that would press into you exactly the depth and the compassion and the hard-won wisdom that the purpose would require, yes to all of it, because from that level, from the place where the soul speaks in the full awareness of what it is, you could see what we cannot always see from inside the human experience, that you were not chosen for this purpose despite your struggles. You were chosen because of what your struggles would make you. The wound became the gift, The searching became the wisdom. The long seasons of feeling lost became the map you would one day offer to others who are standing exactly where you once stood, looking for someone who has been there, someone who knows the territory from the inside, someone like you. And this is the moment, this specific, quiet, unremarkable, and utterly sacred moment, when the transmission shifts from receiving to embodying. Because everything that has moved through these 5 phases was never simply information to be absorbed and stored and perhaps acted upon someday when conditions feel more favorable. It was activation, a frequency delivered in language designed to reach the part of you that already knows everything contained here and to wake it up, not to teach it something new, to remind it of something ancient. Your purpose is not a future project. It is a present frequency. It is the quality of attention you bring to this conversation, the depth of presence you offer to the person in front of you, the particular way you hold space for someone who is breaking in ways the world cannot see, the specific light you carry into every room, whether you are conscious of carrying it or not. It is already moving through you. It has been moving through you your entire life. What changes now, what this moment of recognition changes, is your willingness to stop treating it as accidental, to start treating it as sacred. Tonight, in the last moments before sleep receives you, place both hands over your heart. Feel the warmth beneath your palms, the faithful, extraordinary rhythm that has kept going through every season of forgetting, every chapter of doubt, every moment of being so lost that purpose felt like a word that belonged to other people. It kept going through all of it because you kept going through all of it. And breathe into this, not as affirmation, not as performance, but as the quietest and most honest recognition you have ever allowed yourself. I know why I am here, even if I cannot yet put it into words. I know the purpose that chose me before I could choose it is alive in me. It has always been alive in me. And I am ready, finally, completely, without reservation, to let it move through me fully. Let those words settle, not into the mind, but into the body, into the bones, into the breath, into the quiet place beneath the heartbeat where the soul has been holding this knowing safe through every season of the human self's forgetting. Receive them like water after a very long thirst. The world does not need a perfect version of you to begin. It does not need the version of you that has resolved every wound and answered every question and arrived at some imagined state of readiness that feels perpetually just beyond the horizon. It needs the version of you that exists right now, in this moment, with this understanding, with the particular quality of light that has been pressed into you by the specific fire of your specific life. That version, this version, is exactly what was ordered, precisely what the souls you came to serve have been waiting for. Not someday, not after more preparation, not when you finally feel ready enough. Now. You were born ready for this. The readiness was built into the design. You did not find this transmission by accident. The part of you that already knows, that has always known, led you here, because it recognized that this was the moment, that the season of searching had done its sacred work, and the season of embodying was ready to begin. Trust that navigation, trust the thread that brought you here, and trust where it leads next. If this channel has become a space where the noise quiets and what is real in you rises and breathes, then stay, not as a follower, not as a subscriber in the hollow sense that word has been reduced to, but as a soul choosing consciously, deliberately, with full awareness of what that choice means, to continue its own awakening. Every transmission here is another layer of remembering, another frequency, another gentle, powerful invitation back to the self that was never lost. Only waiting for exactly this, for you. Your purpose was never missing. It was always here, in you, as you, through you. You were born ready. You have always been ready. Now go live it.